The truth is that many of us have never given our own safety a significant thought when it came to running. We run during the day and in well-populated areas, doing enough to feel safe. But as more and more women are murdered while running, the grim truth that the next one could be one of us stares back at us in the mirror. And we have to face the facts. We are not safe while doing something we love. The thing that brings us joy, confidence, and a sense of worth could be the very thing that gets us murdered or missing. I'm going to tell you these stories because every runner matters. Every single woman who laced up her shoes and didn't come back alive deserves to have her story told. And to every woman still heading out the door, taking extra precautions to try to ensure she comes home, I see you. I am you. This is Girl Gone Running, a Tragedy with a View series about murdered and missing runners. I am your host, Kayla. Welcome back. Hello and welcome back to Girl Gone Running. We are going to delve into a tragic and perplexing case that continues to haunt the Bay Area. Disappearances leave a profound and enduring impact as the constant uncertainty and the agonizing interplay of lingering hope and the crushing weight of the potential despair creates an unbearable emotional burden for loved ones. And that is something experienced by everyone close to Roberta Lee in 1984. Roberta Lee was a 21-year-old student at the University of California, Berkeley, and she was given the nickname Bibi at some point. However, the specific reasons for this nickname are known only to her close friends and family. For the sake of this episode, I will be calling her by her given name, Roberta. Roberta was studying linguistics at the University of California, Berkeley. She was passionate about languages and was deeply involved in her academic pursuits. Berkeley is a prestigious university that maintains leading public research and is known for academic excellence and a vibrant, progressive culture. And she was known for her vibrant personality and dedication to her studies, which means this area and this mindset that the college wanted in its students was perfect for her. Roberta was a member of the University Students Cooperative Association, and this association aims to provide affordable housing to the university students by fostering a cooperative living environment where residents contribute to the community through shared responsibilities like cooking and cleaning, and this makes higher education more accessible and it fosters valuable life skills. She was also living within this association and lived in a section of this housing called Loch Lorraine. Roberta and her boyfriend, Bradley Page, who was 24 years old, met in the fall of 1983 when they both were living in Loch Lorraine. They began dating in the early part of 1984, but much like relationships that form from friendships first, the lines of what the relationship is can be blurry. So their relationship became tense in the months that followed. Roberta and Bradley were fighting at night, and usually the fights were caused because Bradley was behaving in a way that Roberta did not find acceptable, particularly the way that he was behaving with other young women in the cooperative. This tension seemed to have contributed to a strained atmosphere in their relationship, though the exact nature and severity of these issues remain a subject to varying interpretations and accounts. On November 4th, 1984, Roberta, Bradley, and a friend by the name of Robin Shaw, who was 19 years old, went jogging at the Skyline Gate of the Redwood Regional Park. Roberta and Bradley had gotten into a heated argument the night before, and this seemed to not be over the following day. since as they ran, the argument started up again. This time, Robin was subjected to their argument, and the entire problem revolved around Bradley going out with another woman who Roberta had known from high school. Bradley did not consider this meeting a date, but Roberta did. And while I will keep my thoughts to myself about that particular instance, I will say that 21-year-old me would probably have different thoughts than 33-year-old me and what is worth getting in a fight over. As the argument grew, Roberta finally had enough of listening to Bradley talk and veered off in a different direction, heading towards Roberts Park, and Bradley and Robin continued on. They ran 2 more miles together before returning to Skyline Gate. Once they got here, though, Bradley and Robin were waiting to see if Roberta was going to show up so they could head back to campus together. But when she didn't return, they decided that Bradley should go along the trail and look for her. Now, Redwood Regional Park is also known as Dr. Orlai Reinhardt Redwood Regional Park. It is a beautiful natural area located in the hills east of Oakland, California. It is part of the East Bay Regional Park District, and it is known for its stunning coastal redwood trees. The park covers 1,830 acres and offers a peaceful escape from the city with its lush forests and scenic trails. The park has a fascinating history, having been extensively logged in the mid-1800s to supply building materials to the San Francisco Bay Area. However, the logging era has long since passed, and the park now boasts a magical forest of second and third growth redwoods. The tallest trees in this park can reach over 150 feet tall. Redwoods Regional Park offers a variety of activities for visitors, including hiking, biking, horseback riding, picnicking, bird watching, running. There are over 40 miles or 64 kilometers of trails to explore, ranging from easy walks to more challenging hikes. The park is also dog-friendly, making it a great spot for a day out with your furry friend. Whether you're looking for a peaceful retreat or an adventurous hike, Redwood Regional Park has something to offer. That is something to offer unless you were Roberta, as she ran through the park on her own on this calm November 4th evening. With Roberta not returning, and especially because she and Bradley had just gotten into a fight, Bradley went looking for her, but after 15 minutes when he returned to where he left Robin, he said that he had not seen Roberta. Bradley and Robin returned to campus without her, believing that she maybe didn't want to see them and maybe she needed some time to cool off, and knowing that there were a few different ways for Roberta to return to campus without getting a ride from Robin or Bradley. Robin felt uncomfortable with this decision, though, and Bradley seemed to be worried and confused and kind of rolling back and forth with this worry and being angry. They returned to campus at about 6 p.m. That evening, Bradley, Roberta, and a group of friends had planned to go out. When Bradley called Roberta's apartment to talk to Roberta, he found out from her roommate that she was not there and had not been back since she left for their run. At about 11 p.m., Bradley received a phone call from Roberta's roommate, who was now extremely worried that Roberta still had not returned. After discussing the events, they both decided to give Roberta some more time for her to return. But Roberta's roommate had an uneasy feeling, and at 2 a.m. on November 5th, she called Bradley and told him to come to her apartment, and they were going to call the emergency rooms and police stations to see if Roberta was by chance in the hospital or maybe even in jail. Finally, though, when dawn came and there was still no sign of Roberta, it was her roommate who reported her missing to the police after she failed to get in contact with her. Roberta's disappearance led to a widespread search effort, which included thousands of volunteers joining the search for Roberta and millions of flyers distributed across the West Coast in an effort to locate her. 14 teams of Explorers Scouts, 5 Bloodhound teams, 40 search and rescue personnel, 2 horse teams, and several ATVs were used to search Roberts Park area with no luck. But then the police received a clue. Karen Marquardt called in a tip that she had seen Roberta on the road about 2 miles from Roberts Park. She said that she saw Roberta was struggling against a man who was dragging her towards a van that was parked on the side of the road. She described the man as white, in his mid-40s, around 6 foot to 6 foot 3 inches tall, or 1.8 to 1.9 meters tall, and estimated him to weigh between 200 to 220 pounds, or 100 to 113 kilograms. She said that he had a beer belly and wild hair that looked to be unwashed. Unfortunately, Roberta's body was discovered about 5 weeks later on December 9th by search and rescue. She was buried in a shallow grave and covered with brush and dirt near where she was last seen alive near Skyline Boulevard. She was laid on her back, and her decomposing body had been partially consumed by wild animals. Her shirt had been shoved upwards, indicating that someone had done this before covering her and leaving the scene, and she had 3 wounds on the back of her head that were all 1 to 3 inches in length, and her skull was badly broken, in addition to 3 other fractures to her skull, a broken nose, and a broken right eye socket. These were concluded to be caused by blunt force traumas, with theories ranging from someone hitting her in the back of the head with a rock, or that her head was forced down onto a rock. To be clear, though, these injuries were not a simple result from her simply tripping and falling backwards. Pretty quickly after this happened, Bradley was arrested and initially confessed to the crime during an all-night interrogation where he was questioned for several hours without a break and without an attorney. At the time he admitted that he had found Roberta, they immediately started to continue their fight, and Bradley struck her in a fit of rage. When she collapsed unconscious, he decided to leave her, but then when he returned later, he found that she had died, and this was where he dug the shallow grave and buried her. However, he later recanted his confession, claiming police coerced this confession and that he was confused and overcome with guilt. In 1986, Bradley was tried for the murder of Roberta. He was also charged with the secondary and lesser crime of voluntary manslaughter. But the jury found him not guilty on the murder charge, and they were deadlocked on the manslaughter charge. The first trial took a total of 10 weeks. Now, because this episode is about Roberta, I am not going to drag on about Bradley, and it is important to know that the legal system is not perfect, and neither are the cops who keep our cities safe. For the most part, I believe people want to do the right thing. They want to see the person who committed crimes paying for those crimes, and they want to see justice served in the appropriate way. There are a lot of people who do the right things, but there are times when outside agendas apply pressure to convict anyone close to the case that might fit the agenda. Despite the controversy surrounding his confession, he was convicted of manslaughter in 1988 and served 2 years and 8 months of a 6-year sentence before being paroled. This case remains controversial, with ongoing debates about the validity of Bradley's confession and the methods used during this interrogation. Again, Bradley's defense argued that the psychological pressure and the intense nature of the interrogation led to a false confession. The trial court restricted a defense expert's testimony on the psychological factors that could have caused Bradley to give a false confession, and this restriction, along with the circumstances of the interrogation, contributed to the belief that his confession was coerced. Now, I don't really have an opinion on what I think happened here. It could have been Bradley, but it also could have been this mid-40s, beer gut, unwashed hair man who Karen saw Roberta struggling with. And to be honest, the idea that somebody tried to attack Roberta and then maybe either threw her down or hit her with their car tells me that that's something that is much more likely to cause the injuries that she received to her head instead of what Bradley claimed happened in his original confession, where he struck her and she collapsed. Roberta Lee's murder remains a mystery and a reminder of the value of life and the importance of justice. Her memory continues to be honored by those who knew and loved her. It is also important to remember that Roberta was a real person with her own unique personality, dreams, and relationships. However, due to the nature of her case, much of the public focus has understandably been on the investigation and the legal proceedings. Unfortunately, details about Roberta's personality beyond the tragic circumstances of her death are limited in publicly available information. There's just very little about her as a human that is on the internet. What she loved and why she ran is not available to the public. If that has been kept private by the family, I can certainly understand the reasonings, as I like to keep my life private as well. But as I said, it is important to recognize that Roberta is a human being. She was and is still loved by the many lives she touched. She is more than just a person who was murdered, and her story, her life, should never be overshadowed by the controversy that followed her partner in the aftermath. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you being here. We will see you next time. Bye. What is life without close calls with disaster? Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast to be the first to hear the now weekly episodes. Join our subscription on Patreon, Apple, or Spotify today and immerse yourself in the haunting beauty of the great outdoors. For around $4 a month, you'll get exclusive access to the first episode of each month and early access to all other episodes, showcasing the morbid and mysterious side of nature. Please reach out with story requests, and if you have your own story, please email tragedywithaview@gmail.com for a chance to have your story featured on a later episode. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. What is life without close calls with disaster? Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast to be the first to hear the now weekly episodes. Join our subscription on Patreon, Apple, or Spotify today and immerse yourself in the haunting beauty of the great outdoors. For around $4 a month, you'll get exclusive access to the first episode of each month and early access to all other episodes, showcasing the morbid and mysterious side of nature. Please reach out with story requests, and if you have your own story, please email tragedywithaview@gmail.com for a chance to have your story featured on a later episode. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.